She's thinking of it as a game, and she's just so many moves ahead. Which you're not allowed to be in a game. Just saying.
Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through worm. I'm Jenny.
and I'm Ted. And this week, Shell 4.8.
Oh my god, Bakuda is such a problem. What a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's really bad. Like
Yeah,
last time, I knew she was bad.
I was trying to have one chapter where I could celebrate Bakuda.
Being cool. But actually, she's just evil in a really particularly chaotic and unhinged way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really bad. I wrote that she was going to be a big problem, and then as I reread the chapter, because I did read it directly after our last recording because I needed to know what happened. I reread it tonight, and I was like, she is going to be a big problem. How do you get rid of someone who, if they die, all the bombs they planted in their minions immediately explode? But it is also possible that she is going to have problems because she's trying to control her people solely through fear, which is a very powerful weapon, but not one that results in, like, really fine-grained control. And I think the way she's using it, like, I think she's going to have an uprising on her hands. Like, I don't think she has a very stable base of followers. They are only afraid. They don't have anything else going on.
Definitely not, yeah.
So, all right, is it my turn to summarize?
I think it is.
Okay. So they're facing down the ABB, all these gunmen, and, of course, Bakuda. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. So the first thing Bakuda does is make sure that Tattletale doesn't say anything.
Smart.
Thus proving that Bakuda is very smart. Because she doesn't know Tattletale's power, but she saw her take down Uber and Leet with her words, basically.
Her speculation is, can you, like, affect people's moods?
I loved that. I mean, this is, again, I'm summarizing, but the idea that Tattletale would have to have some subsonic capability to alter moods as she talks to explain how good she is at this just underlines how good she is at this, which I love. So Bakuda says, look, if that blonde one says anything, shoot all of them immediately, to her gunmen. So Tattletale is silenced, and is in fact silent for the rest of the chapter.
Yeah.
Bakuda starts basically monologuing, which is great. Love it when a villain does that. Mm-hmm. And she clearly not only enjoys monologuing, but is here to monologue. She is here to give a demonstration of her power as the new leader of the ABB. She says, look, I've inherited this gang. That means I also inherited the enemies of this gang. I've been trying to figure out how can I make it clear that I'm someone to steer clear of. And meanwhile, our villain heroes are like, can we do anything? Like, Taylor says she doesn't have enough bugs. Regent says he can't disarm this many people at once. They don't get much time to plan because Bakuda is doing more things. She pulls a kid out of the crowd, a Korean-American guy in a uniform from the fancy Immaculata High, so Catholic school kid, and checks to make sure he's not the kind of kid who fights, gives him a gun, and says, shoot these people. You don't have to kill them, just shoot them. And he isn't able to do it. He says no. He kind of freaks out and is like, no, I can't do it. And she's like, okay, well then you're no use to me. And she dissolves him, basically. She explodes a bomb that she planted in him, it turns out, which finds his resonant frequency, I guess, and just turns him into goo, like, instantly. And everyone is shocked.
Yeah.
And people, the whole crowd starts screaming. Someone fires a gun in the air. And then in the brief silence following that, everyone can hear Bakuda laughing. And the sound is so horrible through her gas mask, which changes her voice, that everyone is silent. And she gets to talk some more. Regent starts talking to her. He's like, that was pretty cool. And she's like, yeah, it's this cool science stuff. And he's like, I don't care about the science stuff. But, watching someone do that was cool. And he asks her some questions, finds out that everyone in the ABB now has a bomb, one of her bombs, implanted in them. Even, like, the original members who were already loyal to Lung and therefore to her. And she says it was annoying doing the first surgeries because she had to tranquilize them to put the bombs in them. But then once she had enough under her control via the bombs, she's able to get them to control other people. So the surgeries got really boring, but she did it to everyone. She also says that she's a genius. She says, I can think 12 moves ahead before you've even decided on your first, which explains a lot about the last chapter. And then Regent's a little rude to her, and she's like, yeah, you've lost your goodwill. Bakuda makes sure that someone is still filming, because they were filming the explosion of the kid, or the dissolution of the kid. And Bakuda turns to another girl, like young-ish girl in her gang, and is like, if I gave you a gun, would you shoot them? And the girl's like, yes, I think I would. And Bakuda's like, great, my work is done. And then she starts monologuing some more about fear and how powerful it is. And this is why Lou recruited her, like she really understands fear. And she says that if she dies, every single bomb she's ever made goes off immediately. The ones in her gang, the ones that haven't been implanted in her gang. That's when Lisa reaches out and grabs Taylor's hand.
Yeah.
And it is Lisa in the text, which I noted. We can discuss that. Then Bakuda's like, yeah, another demonstration, and like explodes some kind of bomb in the middle of the crowd of people. They all panic. It seems like she's fine. It seems like that's what she's going for. And our gang is able to just run away. She doesn't care about keeping them at this point. She's made her point. As Taylor says, her people were on the verge of killing one another in mindless panic, and the Undersiders are able to run away. So Gru throws some darkness up behind them, and they run. Yeah, really intense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to hear more about your reaction to reading this. Is this anything at all like what you were expecting?
Oh my gosh,
you
no.
know?
I wasn't expecting her to let them go. I thought they were going to have a much harder time of it. I was thinking about why she let them go, and it does make sense to me in the context of she doesn't want to immediately take on every gang in Brockton Bay. She wants to instill fear so that no one attacks her.
Yeah.
And she says, like, what can I do to make people steer clear of me? And so she doesn't kill any of the Undersiders. Presumably, she hasn't even killed Rachel, who's not there, because she doesn't want the Undersiders to come after her for revenge. She wants them to be like, oh, better stay away from her. And she doesn't kill all the Undersiders, which would avoid that problem, because then other gangs might be like, she just extinguished that gang. We better take her down before she does that to us.
Yeah, so, it's a careful balance.
Yeah, so she's making it clear that if you leave her alone, she'll only hurt her own people.
Right.
Which is smart when it comes to not, having to take on all of the other gangs at once. I do question, she really thinks that fear is not only the most powerful motivator, but the only one she needs, and I'm just really skeptical of that.
Yeah.
Usually fear works better in combination with love, with inspiration, with a sense of mission. I'm pretty sure all her people just hate her now.
Right.
And they are going to be looking for opportunities to get away, and sooner or later her control is going to slip in some way.
Right.
These bombs are surgically implanted, but they're not, unremovable.
That's true.
So I bet at some point she'll have an uprising on her hands. Not probably before she can cause a lot more trouble for our villain heroes. Maybe. But yeah, this is an unstable situation she's created. And she's done that sort of deliberately. She talks about fear is most powerful when it's a combination of unpredictability and certainty. So there's the certainty that if she dies, all these bombs will explode. But there's the unpredictability of, when will she explode them while she's living? She randomly picks this guy from the crowd. When he dissolves, she's like, oh, that was great. I forgot I made that one.
Right.
Probably true. Even if it's not true, it's very good strategy, though, because that means, she doesn't even know what bombs are in her people, which means there is inherently this unpredictability.
Yeah.
No one can manipulate her into exploding the bombs they want her to or anything, because she just doesn't know what they are. So I suspect she did that deliberately. She wants to not know because that makes it a real element of randomness.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's also a kind of feeds into her almost Joker-like personality.
Yeah, the laughter,
the randomness, sort of like making it a little bit more of a game for herself that way.
That's the checkmate comment. Like, she's thinking of it as a game, and she's just so many moves ahead.
Yeah.
Which you're not allowed to be in a game. Just saying.
I mean, it's really wild, since we're talking about the end of the chapter, right? We have this whole... The scene is a long villain monologue, the centerpiece of which is this quote-unquote demonstration with Park Ji-hoo, the boy who gets dissolved. And then at the end, right, she got her footage, right? She's basically making a TikTok. She's like, we can post this later. We'll send it to the news.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We'll edit out the talking. She says, we'll edit out the talking bits and we'll just show people...
I bet she will include some of her monologue,
of the talking.
But not maybe the back and forth.
Maybe not the Regent part. Yeah. And then at the end, she's kind of made her point, but it's really, really unhinged to then just detonate another bomb at random.
Yeah.
Again, just for the fun of it.
It's like you're never safe. Yeah. I mean, if I were one of her people, I would be, towing the line as much as possible, but, it's really not worth doing that. There's no guarantee that if you serve her well, you won't get exploded. So why bother serving her well? You'll probably get exploded anyway.
Right. But if she's paying attention to you...
Right. You're not going to rebel instantly.
You better not make her upset, because she says she can just blow you up with her.
Oh, yeah, with her mind. Yeah. But again, this is not a recipe for long-lasting control of a group.
Yeah, I do want to respond to that point. But yeah, at the end, Taylor's read is like, oh, she's letting us slip from her grasp. She's probably laughing. It's just so unmotivated, what she's doing, that it's just like, keep them on their toes. Ha, 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 ha. And she does say specifically the thing, your point, I like to mix up my arsenal. You never know what you're going to get. Which I just connected, as you were saying that, back to... the last chapter with some of the special bombs they were fighting. This kind of suggests that when she was firing on them, the fact that there was a black hole bomb and then a time freeze bomb was not intentionally showing off or a tech demo as we were maybe suggesting.
Interesting.
But it's just sort of she's like, hey, let's see what this one does. Let's see what that one does. It could be a little bit more
maybe,
we're having fun.
I don't actually think so, because she was so effective in that maze, and she clearly had thought in great detail. And she calls herself a genius.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming is unrelated to her power. I'm assuming that she also just happens to be a genius, because it feels a little arbitrary for her to be a strategic genius as well as a person who can make bombs directly tied to their life force and mind. So I'm assuming she just happens to be a genius. And so I think she probably mixes up her arsenal. Maybe there's benefit at times to putting in a random bomb, and she does, I think, do that with her followers. But I bet she used at least some of those bombs very strategically.
Well, I think you're inviting, there's sort of if you're so smart and such a tactical genius and all of this stuff, why do you think you can rule through fear? Why are you doing this so haphazardly? I guess...
That's a good point, because I'm seeing obvious flaws in this. But she has one extremely strong weapon, and she thinks it's all she needs.
Being bombs.
Which, yes, which really plays into, and ability to control bombs, which I think plays into her arrogance, which we definitely see.
Yes, I guess...
She thinks what she is good at is the only thing that you need.
Right. Arrogance is a really good point, right? She does seem to have gotten the better of them several times. It does feel like there is some strategy behind what she's doing.
And I do think if she's that good at strategy and tactics, she probably thinks... I can keep my people under control through those skills in addition to my bomb powers. I don't need to worry about anything else. She is, I think, overestimating her skills in that area.
Right. I guess it's sort of it's inviting the question of well, she's gotten the better of the Undersiders so far, but she's acting very chaotically in this chapter. True. And... those maybe seem to be at odds, or sort of different. Maybe they're different sides of her. It'd be interesting to see which one is more the real her.
That is interesting. It does I mean, my initial instinct was that they were getting off really easy here. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if there are, to recall a recent theme, if there are other shoes about to drop. We don't know what else is waiting for them in this maze. We don't know what might be waiting for them at home. She's really smart. Maybe she figured out where their lair is.
Yeah. I mean, right. So the ending sentence, you know, we'll circle back to predictions about, you were saying, like, is it an up chapter or down chapter next? But almost without noticing, night had fallen, and as if to invite us deeper into the maze, the light poles flickered and turned on above us. With Gru covering our retreat in a curtain of darkness, we ran. So the last sentence is pretty much like we're escaping, but that first sentence is a little bit of like, you know, the lights came on and we're going back into the maze.
We're going where she wants us to go again.
I think you could read it both ways.
We're still rats in the maze. Yeah. I do think they'll get away. I think they'll have a lot of trouble finding and or acquiring Rachel again.
Right. They haven't made any progress towards their initial goal, which was to hand over the money to their boss.
Because I think she's going to want them to be thrown and to be busy continuing to solve the problems she's caused so that they aren't thinking like, wow, she's really scary. Let's figure out how to take her down.
Yeah.
It's interesting, actually, also. I was thinking that she was relying on her civilian sort of human shield to keep other gangs like the Undersiders from wanting to kill her. I think narratively it is an obstacle. I think for Taylor it would be an obstacle. It's unclear to how many of the villains in the Undersiders and other gangs in Brockton Bay it would be a deterrent, the idea that if we kill her, we also blow up all of her followers.
Ooh.
Because, I mean, you have this... She's basically given you a way, if you are a villain in Brockton Bay, to take out the entire ABB at one stroke.
Yeah.
All you have to do is kill her, and you'll kill all of them. Some of them might blow up really dangerously, so you don't want to be too close by, but...
The entire ABB and a bunch of people who...
Yes.
Maybe they were paying protection money, but you can't hold that against them.
Oh, certainly no.
And probably they were just people strong-armed off the street.
Right, but it's unclear to me how many of the villains in the town would care about that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a...
I mean, she kind of brought it on them herself, right? Like, you know, I feel like if a villain went and killed Bakuda knowing that her entire gang was going to die, the other villains might be like, whoa. But I don't think they'd be like, uncool to kill that many civilians, because, like, Bakuda kind of did that to them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I was about to ask, like, involving civilians in this way, is that or isn't that, you know,
do we think that's, like, breaking Tattletale's sense of
Because Tattletale's examples are about messing with other capes in ways that cross the line. And we know, you know, certainly Uber and Lead, they're no Bakuda, but what we know about them is that they do drive around, like, in cars beating people up and playing Grand Theft Auto, and Tattletale considered them like normal. Like they're the fun ones, you know. Like, they're not. No one's going to complain. Like, I mean, you got a story to tell.
Tattletale would certainly put Bakuda in the second category, at least.
Yeah. But you are. I think my initial reaction was like, this seems pretty bad, and I think your take is probably more accurate. That the villains are going to be like, you know, well, if you're not aligned with me, you know, I don't know. It's tough.
I don't
it's a tough
know.
world out
I don't
there.
know how many of them. Like, I'm pretty sure Kaiser would be like, great, let's kill Bakuda. Like, he's not going to care about all of these people.
But that's also, I mean, it just seems like then she must be extraordinarily arrogant to put such a target on her back. If that's true.
Yes, I do think she is. Yeah. Yes.
I imagine there are unwritten rules about how you interact with the rest of society as well. So it could be escalatory, maybe not towards the other villains immediately, but in the sense of like, oh, this is taking things off the deep end in a way that is going to warrant a much larger, you know, confrontation. Yeah,
that's interesting. I can see it going both ways there. I mean, I do think probably the Protectorate would need to respond. I could also see other villains being like, oh great, the Protectorate will go after the ABB, less attention on me. But you're also right that if this just brings more resources to the Protectorate, if maybe the larger because we're only the northeast branch, if there's a sense of like, wow, things are getting really bad, we need to bring in more people, that could really lead to crackdowns on all the gangs, so that wouldn't be good. So there's definitely a balance. And I also think bringing in lots more people, even if they are civilians who don't want to shoot anyone, does strengthen the ABB in a way that, like, you know, everyone was preparing for this gang war, being like, there's going to be this power vacuum where the ABB was ruling, and now all of a sudden she's exerting way more power.
Yeah.
Then people are not going to be thrilled with that. Like, they're not going to want the ABB to rise in status at their expense.
Yeah.
All right, so should we talk about Regent?
Yes.
So, Regent, there's a big question of how much is he being genuine in this chapter? He's the one who says, like, hey, that was pretty cool the way you melted that guy.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, science. And he's like, I don't care about the science. It was just, like, neat to watch.
I want to just directly quote him.
Go for it, yes.
No offense, Regent said. Well, I'll rephrase. I don't really care about offending you. Don't shoot me, though.
Yeah, he says, I'm just saying it's kind of neat to see what a person looks like when dissolved down like that. Gross, creepy, fucked up, but it's neat. Bakuda's like, yes! Like the answer to a question you didn't know you were asking! She's obviously being super genuine. She does suspect Regent.
Right. So again, she's canny enough to know that maybe Regent is buttering her up.
Right.
But she does also kind of like seem really easily flattered. Right? She's like super excited.
She's like someone else who thinks that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she likes Regent's attention.
Or she likes that he's being really cold and creepy.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe she sees a kindred spirit there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, he is buttering her up. He says, I'd be too lazy to do that even if I had your powers. And then he says, can I approach the body, get a better look? And she's like, no, I'm not stupid. There's a strong argument for Regent just being strategic here. Tattletale can't talk. Regent knows that Tattletale can put information together better when she has more of it. And she would normally be the one asking the questions, and so Regent has to do it, and he's choosing this way to do it. And the fact that Bakuda sees through that makes me suspect, in the sort of, narratives like to surprise you way, that possibly he was being strategic and he was using his real feelings to do it. I'm on evil Regent watch.
Ooh, yeah.
And I'm on good bitch watch. This is sort of what, like, I suspect that Regent will turn out to be worse than we expect, and bitch will be better than we expect.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Regent so far seems like, basically likable, but, like, there are some signs.
I'll add some fuel to your fire here.
Okay.
What I'll say is, maybe we'll circle back to it again in a minute, but, like, what happens to the guy? I think the word is used as, like, soup, like, when he is, dissolved. Taylor doesn't have a lot of internal narration. She talks about, like, other people were screaming. I felt a rising nausea. She ends up, like, trembling, but it's really full body shakes. So she has such a strong physical reaction to the shock and trauma of seeing this. And so that suggests something about just Regent's ability.
Right, he's super calm.
His ability to do this says something about either his personality or his experiences. We can talk about what it might be or something, but just the fact that he's able to step forward and try a different angle on Bakuda says something about him.
And he says, like, that was pretty cool, right after the paragraph where Taylor's like, I wasn't just trembling, it was full body shakes. Like, that's how much it affected her. Yeah. And she's shocked at how calm he sounds. Yeah, so I suspect there's some darkness there. I am a little curious about the dynamics of the Undersiders. So they're villains. They don't seem to be villains who routinely seek out ways to torture people. Like, they don't necessarily have a lot of scruples about that in the service of, doing jobs or whatever, but they're not trying to torment and kill people, as far as I can tell. Would Regent feel like he needed to hide that sort of, like, bloodthirsty callousness around the other Undersiders? Yeah. I imagine that Brian and Lisa, at any rate, wouldn't be thrilled about the idea of being like, let's dissolve people. It looks cool. Like, right. Yeah, like, that seems like Lisa wants to think of herself as a basically totally fine person, not having a negative effect on the world. And Gru has this other, like, motivation for doing this stuff.
But would they be like, well, dissolve people on your own time?
Right, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And from what we've heard about Rachel, she wouldn't be put off by that. Who knows? We really haven't seen her on the page very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the kind of thing where, like, if he is actually, like, evil on a different level than the rest of them, would he feel like he needed to hide it or not?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
He also was very willing, very ready to believe that Rachel had betrayed them, even though he'd never seen any sign before that she would do that. Which I think says something about him and how willing he is to betray people.
Ooh. Yeah, he says, well, there was no reason to suspect her, but it's clear that it's happened
But
now.
It's clearly happened, so I'm jumping to that conclusion. So maybe he would be willing to betray them.
I mean, but now I'm going to defend him a little bit. Like, maybe he's been hurt before, right? By people he trusted, right? Yeah.
And maybe that was just the most obvious explanation, and he's not very smart, as he said. So.
Yeah, not very smart. He's lazy, but he's honest about it.
Yeah. But is he being honest about thinking that was pretty cool when she dissolved someone?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I did really appreciate, at the beginning of the chapter, Taylor's reflective moment was saying, gosh, it's really nice when bitch is here.
I was delighted by the end of that sentence.
Yeah, which I loved. But then, because Bakuda immediately is like, she's shaking her finger at Tattletale like she was scolding a dog. Like, you can't talk. We create space for Regent to step up later in the chapter, which is it's a really fun trick. And I think it also avoids what would naturally happen because Tattletale is the talker in the group. If she's not shut down right away, we're just going to have like a Glory Girl repeat, right?
Yes.
It makes sense to vary it up in some way. So we need Bakuda to be smart enough to get Tattletale to shut down.
And it's such a good move. I mean, you got to do that if you're Bakuda. We really do see a lot of, sort of said this, but like a lot of good moves from her. Like when she selects the kid who she eventually explodes, she's like, so do you get into fights? Ever been in like a situation where you're like reaching for any weapon, just trying to survive? And he's like, no. And she's like, oh, great. Then I'll use you. She wants him to say no.
Yeah. And
she wants to explode him.
And she even says, well, kill them. And she's like, well, you don't have to kill them, just shoot them. And he can't even do that. Yeah. So she really picked a good mark. And I was wondering a little bit, like, because she has sort of she cocks her head or is like curious or something when he's responding. I was like, does she know what she wants out of this situation? But by the time she comes around to like, and you, girl, will you shoot them? And she's like, probably. You know, she clearly wanted to blow somebody up and then make that point.
While we're talking about Lisa, sort of, vaguely, the moment at the end, actually 2 moments, when Lisa does something in this chapter, she doesn't talk, but Bakuda says, now I may have inherited the ABB, and Taylor catches something on Tattletale's face.
Yeah.
She's like, I wonder what that was.
What is that?
Very intriguing. I suspect that there's some information there about, like, you know, maybe Oni Lee was supposed to inherit the ABB, and Bakuda stole it from him, killed him to get it, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing she does is when Bakuda says the thing about, like, if I die, all the bombs I've ever made go off. And then she reaches out, and it says, Lisa reached out and grabbed my hand, clenched it tight.
Yeah.
She's still in costume, of course. She hasn't taken that off. But it seems like that is a Lisa moment for Taylor, maybe just because of how human that gesture is.
Yeah. And how rough she's feeling.
Yeah. Right. She needs to think of it as Lisa and not as Tattletale. It might also be because she's been silenced and therefore she's not, you know, doing her normal thing.
It's interesting. My read on the grab at the end was less a response the way it was to the statement earlier.
Yeah.
And more because once the bomb goes off, Lisa is pulling Taylor away.
That's a good point.
So my read was that her power told her she's going to blow somebody else up now. So it was like getting Taylor ready for the getaway.
I think you're actually right. I think Taylor might read it that way, but interestingly, she's Lisa again. Lisa was already pulling on my arm, pulling me away, and then we have Regent and Gru.
Yeah.
I think it might just be like part of being Tattletale is talking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's Tattletale earlier in the chapter.
That's funny. You know. Yeah, she's functionally Lisa.
Yeah.
If she can't talk.
I was wondering, I think your theory is better. I was wondering, I mean, I guess you know whether or not this is true, but if when Bakuda said the thing about if I die, every single bomb I've made goes off, not just the ones I jammed into their heads, all of them, and I've made a lot. I thought maybe Lisa's power gave her some information at that point about, like, where those bombs are and what would happen if they all blew up. Which I imagine we'll find out soon if that's true, because there's going to be some discussion. So I'm intrigued.
Yeah, you could also read it as she learned something, and whether or not she knew a bomb was going to go off imminently to create an opportunity, her decision was, as soon as we can, we need to run. Mm-hmm. Right? So maybe she got some information that created that sense of urgency. That's interesting.
It's really interesting to me, the varieties we've seen of Tinker. Like, the powers are just so innovative. Like, Leet only being able to make things once, really tragic. And Bakuda seems like, it's not just that she's a scientific genius who can make bombs. She makes bombs that she can activate with her mind and that are tied to her life.
Yeah.
Which is, actually, how would she know that? Maybe it's a lie. That would be interesting, because it's the kind of thing you'd want people to believe.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because otherwise her gang would be trying to kill her all the time. But my point stands that it is fascinating to see these varieties of Tinker and see the ways in which they are parahumanly connected to the things that they make.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I don't necessarily have a, like, how does it connect to her power answer for this, but I did want to invite you to speculate, like, what is Bakuda's deal? Like, what's her damage? Because there are some interesting things that I thought were instructive. This is really, we get more, I feel like we get to see more sides of her. We've covered the, like, mad scientist angle, right? Like, she has a very intellectually sounding, like, oh, well, the vibrations in Tesla, you know, like when I turned the guy into soup, and Regent's like, yeah, whatever. But she does seem to have an intellect and be interested in sort of like science, even though no one appreciates that.
Yes, definitely. There's
kind of the fun Bakuda moments this chapter. She half skipped, half spun through the crowd and leaned against one of her thugs, patting his cheek. And at the end, she kicked her legs against the side of the Jeep like a grade schooler sitting on a chair, like just having a great time. There's her laugh, which is very, very scary.
Yep.
At one point, she wants to say something to one of the ABB, and winding his hair in her hands, she made him bend over until his ear was right in front of her. Like, a really, really, really quote-unquote fun creepo. She is doing a traditional villain monologue, right? Which is partly performative, right? She's performing for the camera.
Yeah.
But that's clearly not all it is, right? And she even says, we're going to edit the talky parts out. Like, she's doing this for...
She loves to talk, as Taylor says.
She loves to talk, yeah. And then there were a few other things. So, as a reminder to you, the backstory we got about her on Humans Online. Bomb threat at Cornell. She held a university...
I thought it was Columbia. Cornell,
ransom.
Okay. Yeah. I have thoughts on that.
Yeah. Then, when the fear speech... Career like ours, people are only truly loyal to someone if they're terrified of them. Enough fear and they stop worrying about their own interests. Stop wondering if they can usurp you, and they dedicate themselves entirely to making you happy. Then the second girl from Immaculata calls Bakuda ma'am. And Bakuda says, you call me Bakuda. You know that. Nothing fancy. And then the last bit was like, Bakuda's description of have you been in a fight is, I mean a real fight. Biting, scratching, reaching for the nearest thing you could use as a weapon. Which, like, that's a very particular... That's, like, a very particular thing to mean if you say, have you been in a fight? Right? I mean, honestly, actually, just saying that again a second time, that's like we just learned about trigger events this arc. Like the fight or flight response. Like, that's not just got in a fight. That's, like, you got in a fight so bad you could have had a trigger event. But yeah, so I was just pulling out some different things that we learned about Bakuda. What's going on with her?
That's a great question. Okay, so I think she was a Cornell student.
Yeah.
She, I don't think has ever been very interested in being, like, quote unquote good. like staying on the right side of the law, but
Yeah.
she really wants to be admired.
Yeah.
And she sees herself as incredibly smart. She wanted academia to like kneel before her and
Yeah.
her cool powers.
Yeah.
But I bet academia has a lot of scorn for superpowers. Because, I mean, they aren't really compatible with what academia is about, right? They're not replicable. You can't study them. Like, you can't learn what Bakuda does and then teach a bunch of other people to do it.
Oh, so you think she like went to Cornell as a tinker and then broke bad?
Yes.
Like, that's so bad. Because, like, to me, the, like, natural thing is, like, she was a student and her trigger event was something that happened.
I mean, I
during
think
her
that
studies.
could also have happened.
Yeah.
But I think if you suddenly get these amazing powers and you're already trying to prove to everyone that you're the most brilliant person around, you would, of course, try to use them.
Yeah.
And possibly she was doing really well at Cornell. Everyone did admire her. Maybe then there was a trigger event, she got powers, and suddenly no one took her seriously anymore.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who knows what the trigger event, it, could have been completely unrelated to her studies. Like, she could have been attacked by a mugger on campus, it could have been anything.
Reading way into it, just this one little phrase, stop wondering if they can usurp you. I'm wondering if her research partner got first author, or, like, totally cut her out. And that was kind of the last straw. There was some kind of, like, academia jockeying that was going on.
I told you before, right, about the amazing Astolat story on Archive of Our Own. It's like the kind of comics version of Lex Luthor. And his backstory in this, I don't know how much this is canonical to the comics, but that he was a genius scientist, and he went to college and was like, probably like 15 and like did all this original research. And when it was published, like, he was like the 7th author or whatever, because that's kind of how it works in academia when you're like in a lab, and he thought that was completely outrageous and like ended up doing more work with this professor and put deliberate errors in the paper. And then when the professor was presenting it, someone asked a question like, how does that make sense? And the professor was like, well, and he stood up and was like, actually it doesn't. This guy didn't do the research. And he was blackballed from every academic institution in the world, basically.
Yeah.
And so he turned to villainy. I don't know if that's based on the comics or if that was her invention in the fan fiction, but
that's such a fun
that's
angle.
kind of what this feels like to me, of her being like, no, I want to be at the top right away. I'm not willing to play these games.
Yeah.
I want all of the respect right away, and possibly she got superpowers, and that, also was a complicating factor, but she threw a bomb in the works.
Yeah.
She used fear, and that's why Loon was like, oh, I like her.
That was interesting. Some of it cuts the other way, right? So, like, you call me Bakuda, nothing fancy. That also feels somewhat like academia-y, where, like, oh, if you have a professor who's like, no, don't call me professor. Like, my name's Ted. Just call me Ted. Like, or the other thing of, like, someone who insists, like, I'm doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's something there about caring about formality.
Well, I wonder if it's because she doesn't have a title. She wanted to be doctor. Yeah. She's not. She's not going to be ma'am.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't get an actual
Doctor
title.
Nothing.
There are no titles.
Yeah. I also wonder, like, if she triggered while she was, like, running a lab at Cornell or something, and then the stuff about, like, well, you can make good bombs, but, like, not in a way that actually could get you published, because now you're, like, just a cape, right? Like, you're different.
Exactly,
and then, like, maybe resenting, like, the other people, like, people trying to leave her lab, or people trying, like, I wonder if it was sort of a situation that escalated very quickly,
Right, yeah.
Versus something
I think
else.
the most interesting answer is that the powers messed up her career.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And maybe, I guess people do tend to get powers that are somewhat related to their trigger events. So, but if hers was violent, bombs are related enough, no matter what it was.
That's also kind of like if it was something like she was trying to publish or succeed and she couldn't quite do it and was having, like, an identity crisis around that, and that was, like, somehow involved, this could play into pre-existing insecurities, I guess, about, like, will you be able to make it as a researcher by suddenly, like, oh, well, now you can make it as a cape, but you're not going to ever get the academic respect that you want.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, like a kind of a monkey's paw thing.
Yeah.
I have, I guess, one quick thing and then another kind of question for you. One is this absolute control that she wants over people. It struck me that she's almost trying to create a level of control like what Taylor has over her bugs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So I feel like there's kind of it's just interesting to me, you know, like bugs are like obviously, I think we said before, they're kind of like perfectly disposable in terms of like foot soldiers.
It reminds me of Granny Weatherwax's definition of evil, which is people as things.
Yeah. And so it's not quite like Bakuda's turning the people into her swarm or whatever.
Right, she can't actually manipulate them on that level, but she wishes she could.
Right, exactly. It's the desire that I think invites the comparison.
Yeah.
The other thing was kind of a bigger question. We've talked a lot about how Bakuda is a monster. We've talked a lot about how sort of like awful this was. But I do want to take a moment and invite you to reflect on Park Ji-hoo and what happened to him.
Yeah.
This is our first on-screen death, I believe.
Oh.
And a total innocent and a truly, truly awful way to go.
Yeah.
And just opening it up for, you know, how it affected you or what it says to you about the story or whether, you know, maybe you were just expecting this because I keep telling you that other shoes are going to drop.
I think this is one of those deaths that are truly awful in the context of the story and says a lot about Bakuda as a human, as a leader. It is not one of those deaths that are awful to read about. Yeah. Because we weren't emotionally attached to him.
Yeah, he's introduced in order to get exploded.
Right. You recognize the awfulness. Of course, if it happened in real life, it would be, you know, you'd probably have something like Taylor's reaction to it. But as a reader, it's not wrenching to read about it. You're like, oh no, okay, this is really bad. This woman is like capable of anything. She's really evil and she's doing really terrible things to these people. But like, it's not the same feeling as if it were a character you were attached to.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. And it did remind me again, I think we referenced this before, of the death in Scholomance, like really early on, like some random kid has just like died in the cafeteria and it's just like mentioned offhand. I was like, yeah, this happens all the time. And then it like never needs to happen again because of that one mention.
Yeah.
I don't think this kind of thing is never going to happen again in this story. But it is, you know, I guess in a way it does set the like the violence level, you know, got bumped up. Like, because, you know, there was that fight between the wards and the Undersiders where no one died.
Yeah.
Not even Clockblocker.
Yeah.
So now we're like, oh no, people can die. We don't yet know how likely we are to lose characters we've grown attached to.
Right.
I bet that everyone we grow attached to will not survive this story. I'd be very surprised if they did. But
yeah. But will they survive this arc?
Everybody except maybe that one dog. I'm still really worried about that dog.
Oh, yeah, that
dog.
I
think Bakuda is smart enough to know that killing that dog would be essentially as impactful as killing one of the Undersiders, one of the humans.
Let's hope so.
And so if she doesn't want them coming after her for vengeance, she would know better than to kill that dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, Uber and Lee could have killed the dog with, you know, who knows. But
yeah, what I'll say, and part of the reason I wanted to tee up the question was so that I could say this, which is when I was thinking about Worm and how you would feel about it, I remembered Arc 4 being this sort of like dramatic tone shift. And I do wonder if Inching has softened the blow a little bit. But we went from, you know, 4.5, 4.6. It's like, these are like silly, cartoony, pretty shitty at the end of the day guys, but like these video game villains, and they're like pratfalling off of the top of the lockers and stuff, to interlude with a Nazi mom jump scare, and 2 chapters later to the new villain antagonist turns a man to soup.
Yes,
all in the span of 4 or 5 chapters, and just thinking like, yeah, that might be like a test case for how Worm is going to go over.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I do think Inching has made all of that easier to take just because we are reading in such detail and analyzing every bit. It doesn't, you know, everything is very well processed by me. I do also think went into this expecting, I thought she'd killed Clockblocker.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting this level. I already knew it wasn't YA. I've been surprised every time they've gotten out of a situation without massive, narratively painful loss.
Yeah.
So
There is an interesting kind of unexplored angle here where, like, none of these civilians are people that Taylor cares about. Yeah. Taylor cares about civilians and innocents dying on principle.
Yes.
But it's different from
She's not
anyone having a
emotionally
personal
attached,
connection.
yeah.
And he's a very sympathetic guy, but
Yes.
we don't have any personal connection
Right,
to
we
him.
just met him.
Or his school or
Yeah.
anything, other than this guy doesn't deserve to die in the same way
Right.
no one does.
And, I mean, the narrative, if they'd wanted to make us really upset about this death, if Wild Bow had wanted to make us really upset about this death, he would have had ways to, like, tee up, like, oh, this is a person we actually care about. Like, he could have had a moment where he helped them earlier on, or, and it just, the narrative wasn't trying to do that.
It could have been Greg.
Oh, right. Took me a minute. That's true. It could have been a kid Taylor knew from her school.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't trying to hit that hard.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad that would have been harder to take.
It would have been harder to take.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Final predictions.
Okay, so what I haven't talked about yet is what the Undersiders are going to do in response to this. So I've already predicted, I think they are going to escape. They might have some trouble getting Rachel out. Like, if Bakuda wanted them to be distracted to avoid some sort of immediate reprisal, she would have made it hard for them to extract Rachel. Like, maybe she's not there anymore. Like, maybe she's not physically on the premises. Maybe she'll be hard to find. Maybe there's some trap. Who knows? There will be a discussion. I think the Undersiders will have to decide, are we going to do anything about this? Because they were already enemies at the ABB. They were fighting Lung. Bakuda has really attacked them very viciously, but then also let them go. And so I'm curious how each of them... I think that Taylor will want to do something about Bakuda. She's going to be terrified to suggest that.
Yeah,
but
I do want to interject. Bakuda, was already coming to town. I think it has been established. But I do want to connect that line again, like we talked about in Interlude 2.
Taylor's impact, or...
This is a direct consequence of Taylor's decision to go out and be a cape.
Yeah, it's true. So she'll feel personally responsible in some way.
And it's not that Taylor has this boy's death on her hands. I would certainly not go that far. But just in terms of,
she created the situation indirectly, yeah.
Yeah, or even just this is what's at stake when you get involved in this world.
Yeah.
Right? In a really direct and related to her way.
And I think she also is going to draw a line in her mind between the Undersiders, who rob banks and scare people, but not the way Bakuda does, and Bakuda, who deserves to be taken down so much more than the Undersiders do, which will fall in line nicely with her newfound friendships with them and her emotional attachment. She no longer wants to bring down the Undersiders, and it will be easy to tell herself, given the contrast between the Undersiders and their enemy, Bakuda, obviously it's worth protecting the Undersiders and going after Bakuda.
Yeah.
It may result in her delaying trying to find out who the boss is and bring the whole operation down, because she thinks it's more important to work with them to bring down Bakuda. Or at least she's willing to tell herself that.
But isn't that what the Protectorate's for?
Well, yes, that is true, but she wants a reason to stay with the Undersiders anyway.
Yeah, fair.
But there's a question of, do the Undersiders want to do this? I think that Tattletale knows enough from listening to that speech to know that it would be extremely dangerous to do it, so she's going to vote no. Gru is 3 months away from trying to, get his sister into his custody and pull off this whole thing.
Yeah.
So he's not going to want to.
But when you're 3 months away from something, don't you have to do one last job?
Yeah, but this should not be the one last job. I mean, he has time for plenty of last jobs to get him more money.
Yeah.
They can rob a lot more banks. Regent, I think, is going to be no, not messing with that. She's too scary. I think that Bitch will be mad and would want to go after her, but I don't think she's calling the shots in any meaningful way in the group.
Yeah.
So, having said all that, I think they would prefer not to go after her in any active way, and Taylor may try to convince them, but they're not really going to be motivated enough by the plight of civilians. They don't see that as their calling the way she does. But This whole thing has really messed up their situation with the boss. They were supposed to deliver him money tonight. They haven't done that. They don't have the money.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do? Like, obviously Tattletale could tell the boss and be like, this is what happened. It was wild. You had to be there. The boss will probably believe them because why would you make up that story? And also, if they had the money, they would want him to launder it,
and
so why would...
Surely the boss has TikTok. He's going to see it.
No, that's true, actually. The boss will believe them because he will have video footage. But it's possible. I don't really know that much about how the boss operates with them, but he might, come out with something like, oh, okay, well, you have to make it up to me in some way. And maybe he'll actually want them to take out Bakuda.
Yeah.
Say like, oh, she's messing things up. We still don't know enough about his motivations to be able to really figure out like, oh, is she messing things up for him in a way that he really cares about?
Yeah.
But she's an agent of chaos. He doesn't seem to operate that way. I could see how he might want her taken out potentially. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so walk me just quickly from beginning to end. They're gonna plan and talk. But what are they going to do? Like, what's the next step or two that the Undersiders are going to take?
Well, they're going to try to find Rachel as the obvious, the very next step. I think they...
So maybe they'll do that, but not find the money? Or...
She could be just tied up with the money. That seems dumb. Why wouldn't the ABB steal the money? I'm sure they have ways to launder it themselves. Yeah. I suspect their desire to not provoke revenge from the Undersiders does not extend to not stealing $40,000 worth of money or whatever it was. So they're probably not getting the money back, which I think the more likely response is not, we need to take down Bakuda, even though Taylor will want to. It's, we need to do some other job to get money. So I think they're going to try to do something like that. Like, and I think there will be consultation with the boss. And maybe the boss even wants is like, you messed this up. Do something else to... get me this money.
Sure. Yeah.
Or whatever cut he gets of it or whatever. Yeah. So I think they'll be trying to do another lucrative job rather than directly attacking the ABB.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because I guess they don't really have reason to think at this point that Bakuda will come after them again. She could have just kept them the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe they're right where she wants them, as we discussed.
It's possible, yeah. No, that is true. We don't really know, but that's my best guess.
Yet again, there are no new cape names. Would you like to take a sneak peek at the next chapter? I don't know that it will be...
no, but it's a fun thing. I like this.
If we don't have names, and it's not going to ruin the experience somehow.
So I did see the whole first line, which is not that long. Gee. Did you get shot? I asked Regent.
Well, yeah.
I think he did get shot. I forgot
we didn't talk about that.
Yes.
He knocked down like 10 people at once, and then... some people were pointing guns at him, and he grabbed his arm. And Taylor was like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And she just asked him, what's the deal?
Yeah. I think he probably got shot. I mean, he doesn't seem like it's his arm, so he's probably not about to die or anything.
Yes, Regent replied. Ow.
We can just write this chapter ourselves. Yeah, all right. That's my prediction.
Good stuff. Regent got shot.
Regent got shot.
Next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.